What's up, everybody? Hanging out with our buddy Thom Abraham from up in North Alabama, Huntsville area, 97.7 ESPN The Zone. And we're about to record our segment for the Tailgate Show on Saturday. Thom, this is the kind of weather you love, right? I mean, you get to go out and you bundle up. You can go fishing in this. I mean,
yeah. I left upstate New York 25 years ago to get away from this, and walked the dog this morning. It was 28 degrees, and I said, "Well, I guess we got to go a little further south." But no fishing going on right now. But it is going to warm up. It's going to be a decent weekend. It's going to be a beautiful day in Tuscaloosa. It'll be a nice night for football on Saturday night, and hey, it's November, man. This is moving time in college football.
Yeah, no doubt. So how is your show going? How's things up in the Huntsville, North Alabama market?
It's been tremendous. It's been outstanding, and of course with all the intrigue with the college football season, I think that has made it even more so. We get to this time, now that the college football poll is out, the playoff poll is out, we get to do all the fun speculating. What would it look like if it was a 12-team playoff, and who's got a clear path? And one of the things I always say, I can't stand the term when they'll talk about this is the time of year where everybody says this team or that team controls their own destiny. You can't control your own destiny. It's destiny. I mean, it's why it's destiny. Now, you can have a clear path, and that's what I like to talk about. I mean, there are teams that have a clear path to the playoff, and there are other teams, regardless of where they are in the standings, and then there are other teams that are going to need help. And so that's what's kind of fun, and it's a great time of year. It's just a great time of year. The World Series ended, lowest watched World Series in the history of baseball. I mean, that's where we're at right now with baseball, and it's not like you have to go back to the 50s. You can go back 8 or 9 years. When the Cubs played the Indians in the World Series, they had 25, 22, 23 million viewers on average for that World Series. This one it just completed had about 8. And
I was one of them. I was one of them. I got to tell you, I met Bruce Bochy at Don and Charlie's in Arizona, one of my Cubs spring trainings with the late, great scout Gary Hughes. I was out to dinner with Gary Hughes. We went into the lounge, met Boch. I love the guy, man. Guy's got huge hands, the biggest head I've ever seen. And he just took the Rangers to their first World Series. Like, I woke up this morning thinking about the other teams that have never won a World Series, like the Mariners and the Padres. And who else hasn't won one? But like, not many teams. But the Rangers were always like score a lot of runs and then lose with pitching. And then Boch comes in, and that was even though
he's
it
underrated. He's really underrated.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy's got 4 World Series titles now, and you really don't think of him, the great manager. He's a top 5 manager of all time in the history of baseball. But it was tough. It was a tough watch. There's just not a lot of stars. And then Garcia is out for the last couple of games. Yeah. I saw the last 3 innings of Game 1 and the last 3 innings of last night. I watched first couple of innings on Halloween because it was so cold. I came inside while my wife was handing out candy. I watched the first couple of innings of that game on Tuesday, but then it was 10-0. I'm done with that. So I did not watch. This is the least watched World Series for me ever as well. And
you throw you in there with that, huh?
Well, you get a 6 seed to 4 seed. You got teams that won 85 games that are playing in the World Series. I know you can't put the 2 back into pace or the pace back into 2, but for me, I would just take I'd go back to taking the top 4 in each league. And let's go.
Let's go.
162 games should mean something.
I agree. Well, and now transitioning into college football, this wasn't something I was going to bring up on the show, but you brought this up now, so I do want to hear what you think. My fear is that college football is about to go down the same path with this 12-game playoff. The regular season in college football means a lot. I mean, this game with Alabama and LSU on Saturday is basically a playoff game. Whoever loses is out, and if you win, you're still in. Next year, it might not be that case. You lose that second game, but you play it out. Things kind of fall in place, and you still get in. If you're Alabama, that is what I'm worried about with 12, and then eventually the coaches are going to beg for more because it saves their ass from getting fired because they can say, well, we got into the playoff, that's what I'm afraid of. College football built on a playoff in the regular season. that's going to change somewhat next year.
I think I was an 8-team playoff guy. I've always been an 8-team playoff guy. I think you win a Power 5 conference that's an automatic qualifier plus 3 wild cards. Of course, now we're going to have 4 power conferences, maybe 3, depending on what you feel about the Big 12 or the ACC, and if there's more attrition in the ACC, we'll see if that happens. Right now, they've grown to a 17-team conference. So, but in any event, at 12, I mean, there's still 130 teams. And there's still access because you're going to, right now, as of today, under a 12-team deal, you'd have Tulane would be in the playoff. So there is access for those schools that are, whether you like it or not. I don't like it, but there is still access for all 130. If this was next year and there was no Pac-12, you'd have Tulane and Air Force in there. But with 6 automatic qualifiers, and then just 6 wild cards, basically 6 at-large teams, I still think the college football regular season is huge, huge. Yes, will there be some 2-loss teams in there? Yeah. But this year there's going to be a bunch of undefeated and 1-loss teams. So maybe a 2-loss team wouldn't have gotten you in. Certainly this would be an elimination game for LSU. They already have 2 losses. So I'm not concerned with that yet. It's not like baseball is now 12 teams out of 30. College football is 12 teams out of 130. So I still think the regular season's very significant. And I think we're going to get the best teams in there. They're going to have to change. I know now they can't change for the next 2 years. They're going to have these 6 automatic qualifiers. So we are going to get teams out of the Sun Belt. We're going to get 2 teams from what we would call, group of 5 conferences in the playoff the next 2 years. Because there's only going to be 4 major conferences, so we're going to be down to 9 conferences for all intents and purposes.
Right.
Once the Pac-12 merges with the Mountain West, or the Mountain West merges with the Pac-12, whatever it is, there's going to be 9 conferences, and 6 of those champions are going to get an automatic bid into the play. Penn State, if this was next year, Penn State would not be in the playoff. Air Force and Tulane would be in the playoff.
It sounds a lot like the Rangers against the Diamondbacks in the World Series to me. All right, let's do this thing, Tom. Let's get this thing going. And now we're going to Saturday. So get in the time machine and let's go. Welcome back to the original Bama Football Tailgate Show, and we are previewing Alabama and LSU, brought to you by Screwball, the original peanut butter whiskey from Innisfree in Tuscaloosa, and big game for Alabama and LSU both today. This segment is presented by Tuscaloosa Hyundai. No side stickers, and Hyundais, some of them built right here in the state of Alabama. Great to have our friend Thom Abraham on like he does each and every week, unless he's on a fishing trip. 97.7 ESPN The Zone in North Alabama. Thom, let me get right into this. Alabama and LSU. I feel like the Bama dynasty is a bit on the line today, because if you lose twice in a row to LSU, all of a sudden you're not competing for a national championship again. And Brian Kelly's flipped the script on the Crimson Tide.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. A lot of pressure on the Tide, especially because this one, of course, is in Tuscaloosa. So they've got to get this one. They got the revenge in the Tennessee game. They now need to get the revenge in this game against LSU. And the key will be to play clean football. Remember the 15 penalties last year in Baton Rouge against Tennessee. They only had the 1 penalty. Seth McLaughlin with his weekly double clutch snap. It felt like we had to have that in there, I guess. But if they play clean football, don't turn the ball over, they're going to be fine. And also, we're approaching a time where we don't know how much longer this game is going to be an every year game. I would love it to continue to be an every year game, but depending on how the scheduling goes in the future for the SEC, this rivalry, which has become one of the great rivalries in college football over the last 20 years now, it used to be nothing, but this has become a great rivalry. And Mick, I don't know how much longer we're going to have it every year. So we need to savor it. And it's a huge game. And for Alabama, it's a playoff game. Every single week is a playoff game for Alabama. If you believe they have a path to the playoff, and I am one that does believe they have a path to the playoff, regardless of all these matrix that say 7% and everything else. It starts with this game tonight. Got to win this game tonight to keep that dream alive.
Yeah, look, I'm with you. I mean, this is definitely a playoff game for Alabama, and this could be the end of this Alabama and LSU year in and year out rivalry. And I don't blame Alabama people, although Nick Saban's saying that he likes playing it. I don't know that they really want to play this every year because of the way that the schedule falls for Alabama. You got Auburn and you got Tennessee. Then you got these guys. Those are three really, really difficult games. Everyone else that has this same, three rivalry of the 9-game schedule has the one team on it that you're like, okay, you know what? That's probably going to be a win for them. When you put these three in it, it's not like that. And I guess that's why, Alabama behind the scenes, from what we understand, has been a little bit apprehensive about playing every year. But I think that you're right, though, on the same line, is that since Nick Saban got to Alabama from LSU, this has been the biggest or one of the biggest games in the conference every year.
That's true. And I chuckle, though, because when Alabama fans say, well, wait a minute, we're playing Tennessee. Okay, you've beaten them 16 out of 17 or 17 out of 18 years. All right, so, there's that. And then LSU lost to LSU, 3 times? They've lost to LSU 3 times in 16 years. Okay, so there's that. And then the Iron Bowl. I mean, that's the one that's the most competitive. And I think Auburn has won the Iron Bowl, I think 3, maybe 4 times in the last 16 years. So, look, cry me a river, okay? These are still all people that you beat 95% of the time. It's not Mississippi State, I guess, but, I say play the game. And it'll be interesting just to see. That's a whole other discussion, how they're going to end up doing this. We just saw how the ACC did their future schedules and how the Big Ten did it. And some teams just have one automatic, one permanent rival. Other teams have 2, others have 3. So we'll see what they do with Alabama. But savor this one. It's sports eye candy. Every time you put these 2 teams, they don't jerk around with their uniforms. This isn't Oregon playing Washington State. It looks classic. It always looks the same, home and away, because of the fact that LSU wears their whites at home. And I'm just looking forward to it. I just think it's absolutely great. And, of course, looking for a big win from Alabama here to exercise another loss from last year.
Yeah, and that's the question I was going to ask. Is Alabama's defense ready for Jaden Daniels and this LSU talented offense?
I'll flip that over. This is the number 1 offense in the country. So they're going to get there. So, you got to figure they're going to get there. It's Alabama number 17 defense in the country. I'll flip it over. Is Alabama's offense ready to score in the 30s against a defense that is ranked 88th in the country? This is great offense for LSU, terrible defense. It's not only 88th in the country, they're missing some very key players on their defense. So you can't go into this game thinking that defensively you're going to hold this team to 21 points or 19 points or something like that. They're going to get their points. Can Alabama score 35, 38, 41 if it takes that to win the football game against LSU? And I'm not saying you just write it off and say you're going to give them 35 points, but you have to be prepared to the fact that this is the number 1 offense in the entire country that you're facing. And we got enough of a body of work now, 8 games into the season, that that means something to say that this is the best offense in the country.
Yeah, look, I'm not disagreeing. That is the best offense in the country. All right, let's switch gears a little bit. I want your opinion on this next topic. Former Alabama wide receiver, won a championship in '92. Dabo Swinney is now the head coach at Clemson. And everyone has seen the video of Dabo addressing a caller. They're not having a great year at Clemson. They're 4-4. And, and he went off on this guy. And it was kind of an insulting, call. I mean, talking about, his money and all that stuff. Is Dabo Swinney going to be the next coach at Alabama? I just get this feeling like that he's looking towards that next job. Is he the next guy? Is he going to replace Saban one day?
No chance. He took himself out of the running about 2 weeks ago. He said that the expectations were too high and that it was a problem and that maybe they needed to lose a couple of games. That was before they got to 4-4 and then that call from Tyler and
Tyler.
set up the second rant. At that point, I played that cut over and over again. Maybe we need to lose a couple of games. I'm like, yeah, no, you're not the next coach at Alabama. That doesn't fly. Okay. Can you imagine if Alabama, it's funny we talk about the demise of Nick Saban and the dynasty is over and everything else because they lost 2 last year and they've lost 1 this year. Look at Clemson. They got 4 losses. We don't. And by the way, the bigger thing is, remember, this is since he lost his 2 coordinators. He had those same 2 coordinators through all of that run, that 5 or 6 year run where they were going to win national championships and everything else. He loses his 2 coordinators. What this should point out is just how great Nick Saban has been, because look at all of the coordinators that Nick Saban has won with. Dabo loses 1 set of coordinators and his team goes into crapper. Dabo's out of the running. He's out of the running. He will not be the next coach at Alabama. You can't bring that attitude to Tuscaloosa. I'm a Dan Lanning guy right now. Right now, it's Dan Lanning, and I am not one of these ones that thinks that there's no chance that Lane Kiffin can ever be the coach at Alabama. I'm not on that train right now, but I like what Dan Lanning has done out at Oregon, and I think that would be something that would make sense down the road.
Lane Kiffin could win the national championship this year and next year and still is never going to be Alabama's coach. Has nothing to do with his ability to coach football. I'll leave that there because I want to ask you one other thing quickly. The line's only 3, and this is the lowest that this line's been in this football game for years. Is Vegas telling us that Alabama's slipping?
I think what Vegas is saying, Alabama wins a different way. You know what I mean? It's Alabama is not, it isn't joyless murder ball. They're not out there destroying everybody by big time points. But the last time I saw winning games is winning games. This is an Alabama team that's built on defense and an offense that is efficient and that can hurt you in various ways. And that is running the ball better and better each and every week. It's just a different kind of winning. So the days of Alabama, this number, by the way, over the summer was 11. That was the look ahead. Yeah. This was Alabama was going to be an 11-point favorite. But this offense isn't that kind of an offense. So they win games by, they're going to win games by 3, 7, 10, 11. But if I told you right now that at 10 o'clock tonight, Alabama had won this game 34-31, I'm going to bed and sleeping easy. I don't need them to win by 15 points or 20 points to prove anything. Survive and advance.
That's what you say every week. And guys, you can check him out. He's got his own show, the Thom Abraham Show, 97.7 ESPN The Zone. And by the way, they got a great app as well. So you can download that, listen to our show and listen to his show each and every day, Monday through Friday. And then, of course, us on game day Saturdays. Alabama and LSU brought to you by Yuengling Lager, America's oldest brewery. The second hour of the show is coming up next, 6:45 tonight at Bryant-Denny Stadium. The Crimson Tide and the Tigers, and we are previewing that now.